So today I'll be performing the sun protection lab, and we'll just get started. I'm keeping the sheets of UV reactive paper in the shade, and I'll be getting 2 out for my observations of the effect of placing a key on these papers. So we have 2 pieces of paper. One will be our control, and one will be our test. And I'll return in 15 minutes and see the results. Right now it is currently 2 o'clock. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it's 2 o'clock, and I'll return in 15 minutes and check the results. Okay, it's been 15 minutes. And the first and most obvious thing I see is that the paper has changed colors completely. It was previously a blue, and now it's like a yellowish tinge, but let's observe what's underneath the keys. Wow. Take it into the shade and compare them. As you can see, where the keys were laying, it's become completely blue. It's starting to fade away, but you can definitely see the imprint which the keys made. And in our control, there's, as you can see, it's fully yellow. So I'm guessing what this is showing is that the UV light did not pass through the keys, and therefore didn't interact with the paper and cause the chemical reaction to change the color. So now we will make observations with a new sheet of paper, and we will be doing it with this piece of cloth. Just be laying it like that, and we'll leave the control out just to compare when we come back in 15 minutes at 2:31. And just to show, these are the observations, or the observation which I recorded from that previous test, and be back at 2:31. Okay, it's 2:31 now, and we're going to observe the difference between the control, which is still very much yellow, and what is underneath the cloth. Basically completely blue. Now, something that I was kind of expecting is that you can see the kinds of patterns within the cloth where the UV light managed to get through more so than other parts, and how on the sides where maybe the cloth was kind of sticking up a bit, the UV light was able to go underneath almost and still stain the paper a bit yellow. So yeah, you can see the patterns where there's less cloth in the way of the paper. But otherwise, comparing it to the control, you can definitely see that the cloth was protective. And something else interesting is that as this was in indirect sunlight, you can see that the imprint of the key, the blue imprint at least, has gone away, and it's been replaced by a slightly less pronounced yellow. As you can see, the part that was directly like shown with light, where the UV rays were directly hitting, is a very deep yellow, but you can still see the keys in a lighter yellow as they've been exposed to indirect UV. So even in the shade, it's able to change colors, and it hasn't returned to the full blue, but it's still just a bit blue yellow tinge. So now get another piece of paper, and we'll observe the difference, or what happens with sunglasses on this paper. So I was thinking the best way to do this is probably just like this, or I'm going to kind of use this hole to keep the glasses facing up as much as I can. And let's see. Yeah, I think this is the best way that I can do it. So we'll come back. You can see the shade made by the glasses, and come back in 15 minutes and see the results. It's currently 2:33. This is the observation I wrote down for the cloth and control. And we'll be back. So it's been 15 minutes. And let's see the results. This is the control. And this is the test. Now I'm not sure I got the best test I possibly could because the sunglasses weren't laid directly down onto the paper. But you can still see the results where the glasses were. You can see that there's still the blue tinge. And especially, where I guess you can call it a handle was, you can see that it's very blue. But I would imagine that when these are up against your face and completely covering your eyes, they would do a much better job of fully protecting from the UV radiation. Yeah, you can still definitely see the difference between the two, where there's definitely still some blue on there from the lenses, and the control is completely still yellow. So now we'll move on to testing the sunscreen and lotion. This is the observation I wrote down. And now I'll set up the final part of the experiment. So I've finished making each of the samples, and I've decided that these are a bit too big for my bag, so I cut them in half. And I'll now apply the corresponding SPF to each of them, and then once that's done, I'll put them outside. So I've finished applying a fairly generous amount of sunscreen to each of them. And just for the record, this face lotion is 20 SPF. And now I'll put them outside in the middle of my garden so that they get 4 full hours of sun time. Okay, I've laid each one out here in the middle of my garden. It's cloudy right now, but this should be the best spot to get as much sunlight as I can for the longest amount of time. It's currently just about 3, so I'll be back at 7 and I'll check on them and I'll record my observations. Okay, I just brought them back inside and they definitely aren't as yellow as the control that we did. I just submerged this one in water and it did change colors when I submerged it. So just keep it in there for a bit longer. And I'll submerge all the rest of them and just see what the result I get is. Okay, I just submerged the second one and you can really see the difference. This one is much more blue, the lotion, and this is the SPF 15, and it's much lighter. There's not as much blue. As you can see, this is side by side of the two. And I'll continue to the SPF 30. So after soaking them, it became a bit more clear here. I'll turn on the light. The colors became a bit more clear where the SPF 15 and the lotion, and I think the brown spots are due to me touching the Sharpie and touching the paper, but you can tell that these the lotion and the SPF 15 are much lighter, with more yellow and less blue as compared to the SPF 30 and then the SPF 70. So I don't know if it'll show up in the camera well, but I can definitely see that these two are darker and that the SPF 15 is actually the lightest. So I'm going to write down that order right here. Here we go. So yeah, I think the experiment worked just about how I would have expected. Especially because the lotion is SPF 20, so if I were to put them in order of how well they worked, it'd be something like this. The SPF 15 at the back, and then it slowly gets darker again. I think the flash is making them all look kind of the same, or lighter, but let's see. Not much better. But yeah, that's my experiment.